Top 15 Gemstones to Invest in 2026. Welcome back to Tops, a journey that reveals the hidden stories of gemstones like never before. In today's episode, we step into a ranking that could change the way you think about wealth, rarity, and even legacy. Over the centuries, empires have risen and fallen over emeralds, sapphires, and rubies. But in 2026, the balance has shifted. Some gemstones are disappearing, others are reshaping the market, and one, reigning at number one, has closed its chapter forever. If you miss it now, there will be no second chance. Investors who hesitate could find themselves written out of history. Over the following 15 chapters, we'll explore gemstones that are not only beautiful, but also volatile, mysterious, and sometimes misunderstood. From neon flares born a generation ago, to velvety blues mined less than 30 years ago, to green flames that funded empires, each stone tells a story of geology colliding with human desire. Yet no matter how powerful these stories are, they all build to an inevitable climax, the gem at the top of this list. A gem so rare that its mine has fallen silent, yet its price rises higher every year. If you miss it, you risk missing out on the only remaining opportunity in the colored stone market. If this is your first time at Tops, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next Gemstone Kingdom adventure. Follow us because the countdown is on, and the deeper you go, the more dangerous it becomes to look away. Ranked 15th. Blue Garnet of Madagascar, the dual identity gem investors can't ignore. Under the midday sun, it appears as a tranquil shade of blue, cool and calm like a lake. Yet under warm lamplight, it transforms into deep red wine, as if it were holding two passports of color. This phenomenon is no trick of the eye. It is the signature of the blue color change garnet from Bekele, Madagascar, and it is one of the rarest performances nature has ever staged inside a crystal lattice. What makes this dual identity so valuable? Unlike Alexandrite, which shares the color change fame, Bekele's garnets are far smaller in supply and even more elusive in size. Most stones never reach beyond 1 carat. A gem of 2 or 3 carats is almost unheard of, and yet collectors are willing to pay premiums precisely because of this limitation. In a world where rarity fuels price, the inability to find larger stones paradoxically strengthens the allure of the smaller ones. Geologically, the secret lies in an improbable alignment. Garnets are one of the most common mineral groups, yet only under a narrow chemical window, where vanadium infiltrates the pyrope-spessartine mix. Does the stone flip its absorption spectrum to shift from blue to red? It is chemistry balanced on a knife's edge. That is why Bekele is essentially the only locality where stones of this dramatic shift have been recovered. Mining here is no industrial operation but a fragile, small-scale effort. Shallow pits, gravel washing, or tracing the veins by hand. In the rainy season, mud swallows the roads. In the dry season, red dust coats the landscape. Every crystal brought up is a gamble against breakage, and most are too small or flawed to reach the gem trade. In jewelry, cutters face the challenge of sacrificing rough weight to maximize effect. They often choose oval or cushion shapes with broad tables, so the transition between daylight blue and lamplight red is impossible to miss. Set in yellow or rose gold, the transformation appears even sharper. 1 ring, 2 colors, 2 lives. For an investor, this is not a gem that competes on carat size. It competes on the strength and clarity of its transformation. This is why Bekele Garnet holds value. It offers investors and collectors something Alexandrite cannot, a niche gem so rare that every stone is essentially a signed limited edition. The dual identity itself is the brand. Its scarcity, not its scale, is what drives the price. The risk, of course, lies in liquidity. Unlike ruby or emerald, there is no deep, established market for beryl garnet. Prices are driven by collector passion, not jewelry houses. It is also vulnerable to misrepresentation, as it is sold alongside other color change garnets with weaker shifts. Without solid certificates and clear daylight, lamplight images, resale can be slow. Yet precisely because of this narrow collector demand, prices have remained stable instead of being volatile. As mainstream investors chase blue-chip gems, Bekele Garnet sits in a quiet niche, moving steadily upward with each rare example that surfaces. In 2026, its outlook is not one of explosive growth, but relatively stable appreciation for those who specialize in rarity rather than liquidity. If you also find this two-faced gem surprising, leave a comment. What degree of color change would convince you it deserves a place in your portfolio? The last flicker of blue fades into red, as if the garnet has told its final secret. Then comes a gem that waits for a different light, one invisible to the eye, before it reveals its hidden fire. Benitoite. Ranked 14th, Benitoite, San Benito, the gem that glows under invisible light. Imagine a gem that doesn't just sparkle, it glows with an otherworldly fire when bathed in ultraviolet light. In normal daylight, it dazzles with delicate sapphire blue brilliance. But under invisible rays, it erupts in neon chalk blue fluorescence, as if it had captured starlight in its core. This is Benitoite, a gemstone so rare that it was declared the state gem of California, yet so limited that every surviving piece now tells the story of a mine that no longer exists. When Benitoite was discovered in 1907 in San Benito County, gemologists immediately recognized it as something entirely new. Its composition, barium titanium silicate, was unlike any other gemstone known at the time. It formed within serpentinite veins, under conditions so unusual that nowhere else on Earth has produced stones of comparable quality. While small traces have been found in Japan and Arkansas, none rival the vivid blues of San Benito. From the very beginning, Benitoite was marked as a one-locality wonder. Mining was always tricky. The serpentinite host rock crumbled easily, and extracting intact crystals required both precision and a bit of luck. The largest faceted stones rarely exceeded 3 carats. Most remained under 1. Still, their brilliance and high dispersion, even greater than that of diamond, made them sparkle far beyond their weight. For jewelers, this meant Benitoite could be cut into triangular or round brilliance that lit up under both sunlight and UV, a perfect collector's stone, but a challenging one for mainstream jewelry. Then came the silence. The mine's veins were exhausted within decades, and by the late 20th century, commercial production ceased. Today, there is no active supply. Every Benitoite gem you see in showcases or auctions comes from old stockpiles, inherited collections, or the occasional hobbyist find in surface soils. Its story is told not by what is mined today, but by what has already disappeared. That absence is its strength. Investors prize Benitoite because its supply is not only limited, it is finite. Every stone becomes rarer with each passing year, a fossilized record of a closed mine. Its unique fluorescence gives it a wow factor that even sapphire cannot replicate, ensuring demand among high-end collectors and gem museums. But the very qualities that make it valuable also limit its liquidity. Benitoite is not a household name like ruby or emerald. The market is small, driven almost entirely by knowledgeable collectors who are purchasing the items. Without that niche audience, resale can be slow. Size is another constraint. Few stones above 2 carats exist, and those command extreme premiums, leaving most investors with sub-carat gems whose appreciation depends on collector demand rather than mainstream jewelry houses. Still, the long-term trajectory is clear. Supply is depleted, demand remains steady, and awareness has increased in specialist circles. In 2026, Benitoite will not explode in price overnight, but it will continue its slow, steady climb, rewarding those patient enough to hold rarity for its own sake. In investment terms, it is not a stock for quick flips, but a long-term bond backed by absence itself. If you find this vanished source gem surprising, share your thoughts. Would you invest in a stone that glows brilliantly but has such a tiny, specialized market? Benitoite vanishes with the silence of a closed mine. In that emptiness, another story begins, not of what is gone, but of what may soon be gone, the one-generation gem, Tanzanite. Ranked 13th, Tanzanite, Miralani Hills, the one-generation gem. What if a gemstone could live and die within a single human lifetime? That is the paradox of Tanzanite, a violet-blue crystal found in only one valley on Earth. Experts have warned for years that the source will be exhausted within a generation. Unlike ruby, emerald, or sapphire, which span continents and centuries, Tanzanite's entire future depends on a fragile strip of earth near Mount Kilimanjaro. Discovered in 1967 by Maasai herders who noticed sparkling blue pebbles in the ground, Tanzanite quickly became a sensation. Tiffany and Company branded it the most beautiful blue stone discovered in 2,000 years, launching it onto the global jewelry stage. Its trichroism, flashing blue, violet, and burgundy, depending on the viewing angle, gave it a visual drama no other gem could match. And yet, beneath this beauty lies a problem. Geology granted it no second home. The Marilani Hills are the sole known source. Mining is treacherous, often conducted in narrow shafts that collapse under heavy rains. Small-scale miners work in hazardous conditions, while larger companies face challenges related to security and the illegal extraction of resources. Every carat pulled from the ground brings the supply closer to its inevitable end. Unlike diamonds, which exist on multiple continents, or sapphires, with dozens of deposits, there is no new Marilani waiting to be found. This extreme locality exclusivity is Tanzanite's investment hook. The simple equation, one source, finite supply, makes scarcity inevitable. Investors know that when the mine finally closes, no new material will be available, cementing the existing stones as artifacts of a vanished deposit. Its beauty, enhanced by heat treatment to stabilize color, keeps it in constant demand in the jewelry trade. But that same dependence is its greatest weakness. Because nearly all Tanzanite is heated to enhance its violet-blue hue, natural color stones are exceedingly rare and command significant premiums. The abundance of treated material dilutes the market, and oversupply in smaller sizes can suppress price momentum. Liquidity is steady, but values fluctuate, closely tied to jewelry fashion trends rather than those of institutional collectors. Unlike ruby or emerald, Tanzanite does not have centuries of cultural prestige to anchor its market. For 2026, the outlook is a tale of urgency. Supply continues, but mining challenges and periodic government restrictions keep production unstable. Prices for fine stones over 5 carats are expected to firm, especially if depletion accelerates. Still, it remains a volatile gem, one with passionate buyers but a market vulnerable to shifts in fashion and risk appetite. For those who accept short-term uncertainty in exchange for long-term scarcity, Tanzanite remains a calculated gamble. If you find this one-generation gem fascinating, share your view. Would you buy into a stone whose value depends entirely on the countdown of a single mine? As the tunnels of Marilani grow darker, another light awakens, a slit of brightness across a golden dome, an eye that seems to watch the world. Cat's Eye Chrysoberyl. Ranked 12th, Cat's Eye Chrysoberyl, Sri Lanka, the gem that watches back. In a darkened room, a single beam of light falls across a polished stone. Suddenly an eye opens, bright, unblinking, fixed straight ahead. This is not a trick of carving, but the optical miracle of Cat's Eye Chrysoberyl, a gem whose chatoyancy has made it a symbol of fate, fortune, and vigilance for centuries. Among collectors and investors, it is more than beauty, it is belief crystallized into stone. The effect, known as chatoyancy, results from parallel, needle-like inclusions, often rutile, aligned within the chrysoberyl crystal. When cut on cabochon, these fibers concentrate light into a sharp band across the dome, mimicking the slit pupil of a feline eye. Move the gem, and the eye seems to blink and glide. In South Asia, this living light gave Cat's Eye its reputation as a talisman against evil, a guardian that watches back on behalf of the wearer. Kings, merchants, and monks alike trusted its gaze. Sri Lanka, with its gravel deposits and gem-rich rivers, has long been the premier source of fine cat's eye. Mining is done by washing river gravels or shallow pits where chrysoberyl crystals emerge alongside sapphire and spinel. Unlike faceted gems, these are shaped into domed cabochons that maximize the sharpness of the eye. The finest examples show a golden honey body color with a razor-thin white line that appears to float above the surface. In the modern market, this cultural weight translates into financial value. Among investors in India and Southeast Asia, cat's eye stones weighing more than 5 carats with strong chatoyancy are sought after for both jewelry and ritual use. They occupy a distinct niche, not competing with ruby or emerald, but commanding premiums in communities where belief drives demand. For investors, that dual appeal, jewelry plus spiritual significance, makes cat's eye a unique diversification play. Yet this is also its limitation. Outside South Asia, demand is patchier, and many Western buyers view cat's eye as a curiosity rather than a necessity. Prices can be uneven, especially for stones with poorly defined eyes or muddy body colors. Treatments and imitations exist, though less widespread than in other gems. For those seeking quick liquidity, cat's eye may prove challenging. It thrives in markets where cultural resonance outweighs gemological rarity. Looking ahead, 2026 is expected to sustain steady growth in regions where astrology and gem traditions remain influential. Collectors in India and Sri Lanka continue to favor clean, golden-hued stones, while international awareness is slowly rising through auction exposure. While unlikely to surge like Paraíba Tourmaline or Argyle pink diamonds, cat's eye Chrysoberyl offers quiet resilience, a gem that does not need global hype because it has regional conviction. If you find the idea of a gem that watches over its owner compelling, share your thoughts. Would you invest in a stone valued as much for its protective myth as for its optical science? On a velvet stand rests a single ring, its dome of honey gold glowing softly. Across its surface, a white line of light hovers, sharp, vigilant, like an eye refusing to close. In that object, both superstition and science meet, a gem that is not merely looked at, but looks back. The eye closes, its watch complete. Darkness follows, then erupts into a storm of color, a rainbow burning against black, the opal of Lightning Ridge. Ranked 11th, Black Opal. Lightning Ridge, Australia's rainbow in the dark. Imagine peering into a gem that holds an entire storm of color. Scarlet flashes, electric green, rivers of violet, swirling across a jet-black canvas. This is Black Opal of Lightning Ridge, the most valuable opal and one of the most spectacular gemstones ever unearthed. To collectors, it is not just a gem, but a galaxy condensed into stone, each piece an unrepeatable universe of color. Lightning Ridge, a small town in New South Wales, is the cradle of this phenomenon. Unlike lighter opals, Black Opal's body tone is dark, which intensifies the spectral fire. Mining here has always been unpredictable. Small-scale shafts worked by opal miners, who gamble every dig on hitting a precious seam hidden within claystone. For more than a century, Lightning Ridge has fueled both fortunes and heartbreak, giving birth to legends of miners striking millions with a single stone. What makes Black Opal unique is not just its color play, but its individuality. No two patterns are alike. Some resemble rolling flames, others a harlequin checkerboard, and others a cosmic nebula. For the investor, this individuality creates both opportunity and risk. One stone can fetch millions, while another of the same size sells for far less because the pattern is less dramatic. The auction record speaks loudly. Stones like the Aurora Australis and Olympic Australis have entered history as national treasures. Top-grade black opals with vivid broad patterns are commanding steadily higher prices at Sotheby's and Christie's. As Australia protects Lightning Ridge production and demand from Asia grows, Black Opal continues to establish itself as the pinnacle of the opal family. For investors, this means the right specimen is not just a jewel, but an appreciating asset. Yet the very individuality that creates value also creates uncertainty. Unlike diamonds with a clear grading system, opals resist standardization. Pricing relies heavily on visual impact, making expertise essential. Treatments and synthetics add further risk. Moreover, while top-tier stones soar, mid-quality black opals can stagnate, leading to liquidity gaps. Investors must know that in this market, the spectacular rules, anything less struggles. For 2026, the outlook remains bright for stones of the highest caliber. The supply of top-quality Lightning Ridge material is diminishing as easily accessible seams are being mined out. This scarcity, coupled with cultural branding as Australia's national gem, will likely push museum-grade stones to new highs. However, mid-tier material may not track the same trajectory. For those entering the opal market, 2026 is a year to focus only on the best. Broad flashes, strong play of color, and provenance from Lightning Ridge itself. If you could hold a galaxy in your hand, would you invest in it, or would you fear its unpredictability? Share your thoughts in the comments. The story of Black Opal is written in auction catalogs and miners' journals. The Aurora Australis was documented in 1938, the Olympic Australis was cut in 1956, and more recent records are etched in Sotheby's ledgers. Each stone is a chapter in a living archive, a history still being written with every hammerfall. To own one is to add your name to that archive. The galaxies of opal scatter into sparks. Out of those sparks, a sharper flame emerges, green, fierce, and brighter than diamond itself. Demantoid Garnet. Ranked 10th. Demantoid Garnet, Russia and Italy. The fire that outshines diamond. A diamond may be forever, but what if a lesser-known stone could outshine it in pure fire? Under bright light, Demantoid Garnet erupts with dispersion, so strong that flashes of rainbow scatter more fiercely than in any diamond. For collectors and investors, this is a reminder that beauty does not always follow branding, and sometimes the underdog holds the greater flame. Demantoid belongs to the Garnet family, but unlike the deep reds more familiar to jewelry buyers, it burns a greenish hue, an intense, vivid color that can rival emerald. Its secret weapon lies not only in color, but in its extraordinary light return. Cut into a brilliant style, Demantoid sparkles with spectral fire, earning its name from the Dutch word demant, meaning diamond-like. For the untrained eye, it is dazzling enough to be confused, a stone that resembles a diamond but glows green. The finest sources historically originate from the Ural Mountains of Russia. In the 19th century, Russian nobility adored it, setting Demantoid into Fabergé creations and royal jewels. Later, smaller deposits were discovered in Italy's Valmalenco region, producing stones with similar character, but often lighter tones. Today, both origins are prized, with Russian material carrying added prestige due to its historic legacy in the famed horsetail inclusions, wispy golden threads of bisolite that serve as a natural fingerprint of origin. For the investor, these horsetail inclusions are not flaws but assets. They confirm authenticity and enhance rarity, particularly in stones above 2 carats, already scarce. Auction houses have seen demand rising as Demantoid's combination of history, fire, and color makes it one of the most distinctive garnets available. For collectors weary of saturated markets in ruby and emerald, Demantoid offers a chance to stand apart. But caution is critical. Large, clean stones are scarce. The majority of Demantoid gems are under 2 carats, and supply from Russia has long been inconsistent. Italian material, while beautiful, sometimes lacks the depth of color buyers crave. Furthermore, market recognition outside specialist circles remains modest. Unlike ruby or sapphire, Demantoid does not yet have global brand appeal, meaning resale depends heavily on educated buyers. Looking to 2026, Demantoid is poised to strengthen as collectors seek alternative greens beyond emerald. With emerald facing concerns over treatments and clarity, Demantoid's natural brilliance offers a compelling contrast. Prices for high-quality stones above 2 carats are expected to rise steadily, though liquidity will remain niche. In a way, this is an inversion of the classic gemstone hierarchy. The garnet, often dismissed as common, becomes a high-value rarity when it wears the name Demantoid. If you discovered a stone that could outshine diamond itself, would you invest, or would you wait for the market to catch up? Share your thoughts below. Once, garnet was the everyman's gem, dark red, abundant, inexpensive. Yet here, in its greenest and rarest form, it has flipped the script. In Demantoid, the common becomes elite, the overlooked becomes essential. It is not the diamond that dazzles most fiercely, but the garnet. Demantoid dazzles with its fire, but in its shadow waits a quieter green, cleaner, tougher, and rising fast. Not emerald, but its challenger, Tsavorite. Ranked 9th, Tsavorite, Kenya, and Tanzania, the emerald challenger. What if a green gem could rival emerald in beauty, yet carry none of its weaknesses? This is the promise of Tsavorite garnet, a vivid green stone discovered only in the late 20th century, but already reshaping how collectors think about the king of greens. Unlike emerald, Tsavorite has no oils, no fillers, and no fractures that threaten its durability. In a world where trust and transparency drive investment, this emerald challenger has quietly become one of the most compelling options for 2026. Tsavorite was first identified in the 1960s in the borderlands of Tanzania and later promoted by Tiffany and Company in the 1970s. Its name comes from Tsavo National Park in Kenya, a nod to the wilderness where it was mined. The color ranges from fresh spring green to deep forest hues, rivaling the finest Colombian emeralds. But Tsavorite's advantage is structural. Garnet is tougher, and stones are free of the oil treatments that nearly all emeralds require. For investors, this purity translates directly into confidence. Mining, however, is no easy task. The deposits are narrow and scattered, often extracted from challenging terrain in East Africa. Stones above 3 carats are scarce, and anything over 5 carats enters the league of major collector gems. Local miners supply rough diamonds to international markets, but volumes remain limited, keeping prices resilient even when other gemstones fluctuate. Tsavorite's story is not one of centuries of history, but of modern positioning. It offers a cleaner, more durable alternative to emerald, with growing recognition in the jewelry trade. Auction appearances have increased, and brands now highlight their no-treatment guarantee as a selling point. For investors seeking growth, Tsavorite is a gem with an upward trajectory, still undervalued compared to emerald. The challenge lies in market branding. Tsavorite lacks the cultural prestige of emeralds, rubies, or sapphires. Many casual buyers still don't recognize the name, limiting liquidity. Large stones are rare, and mid-sized gems, though beautiful, may take time to appreciate. For now, Tsavorite remains a connoisseur's gem, requiring patience and education to unlock its full value. By 2026, demand is expected to increase as more investors seek alternatives to treated emeralds. Prices for top-quality stones exceeding 3 carats are already on the rise, and further scarcity is expected to intensify the trend. While it may never dethrone emerald's cultural crown, Tsavorite has secured its place as a serious contender in the investment market, especially for buyers who value transparency and structural integrity over legacy. If you could choose, would you invest in emerald's centuries-old prestige or in Tsavorite's promise of clean, untreated brilliance? Share your perspective below. The stone glows, its green vivid and alive. A jeweler lifts it from the tray, then the screen cuts to black. No conclusion, no certainty, only the lingering question. Has emerald just met its future rival? Tsavorite fights for a name of its own. Yet history reminds us that even the most incredible crowns once made mistakes, adorning rubies that were not rubies at all, but spinels. Ranked 8th, Spinel, Burma, and Tanzania, the gem of mistaken identity. For centuries, crowns and scepters displayed what kings believed were the world's finest rubies. The Black Prince's ruby in the British imperial state crown, the Timur ruby, treasured by Mughal emperors, both revered as rubies of unsurpassed glory. Yet science revealed a shocking truth. They were not rubies at all, but spinels. This error of history has given Spinel a strange fate. First celebrated, then forgotten, and now rediscovered as one of the most dynamic gemstones for investors in 2026. Reverse chronology begins here. Today, Spinel is making headlines again. Auction houses are recording record-breaking prices for vivid Jedi red spinels from Myanmar and cobalt blue spinels from Tanzania. Stones of 10 carats and above, once overlooked, now command millions. Jewelers highlight their natural brilliance and lack of treatments, positioning Spinel as the new ruby in an era where collectors crave authenticity. From the current market, we trace back to understand why this gem was lost and then found again. In the early 20th century, gemology matured into a science. With refractometers and spectroscopy, experts realized many famous rubies were in fact spinels. The gemstone fell from grace, relegated to being a secondary player. For decades, jewelers rarely promoted it, and prices languished. But while Spinel disappeared from the spotlight, it quietly built its strengths: a wide range of colors, from neon pink to vivid orange, and remarkable clarity compared to corundum. Most importantly, Spinel is rarely treated, giving it an integrity that modern buyers increasingly demand. Spinel's comeback is driven by the restoration of its rarity and reputation. Top Burmese red spinels, especially those from Mogok, display saturation that rivals the finest rubies. Tanzanian cobalt blue spinels offer an electric glow not found in sapphire. These factors, combined with rising auction results, have cemented Spinel as a serious investment gem. For 2026, it represents one of the fastest-growing sectors in the colored stone industry. The danger lies in recognition. While gemologists and connoisseurs celebrate Spinel, mainstream buyers are still catching up. The name Spinel lacks centuries of branding, and stones of average color can still be undervalued. Misrepresentation persists, with lesser spinels marketed as ruby spinel or sapphire spinel, which muddies perception. Investors must focus strictly on top-quality stones with documented origin to avoid stagnant resale. The trend is clear. Record auctions and high-profile jewelry houses are reintroducing Spinel as a luxury gem. As awareness spreads, the value gap between Spinel and ruby is narrowing. For investors willing to act before full mainstream recognition, 2026 offers a window of growth, an opportunity to ride the momentum of a gemstone correcting centuries of mistaken identity. If the crown jewels themselves could misidentify a gem for centuries, would you risk overlooking Spinel today? Leave your thoughts below. Spinel reclaimed its name after centuries of confusion. But not all stones escape debate. Some live permanently in dispute, like the lotus-colored Padparadscha, forever caught between pink and orange. Ranked 7th, Padparadscha Sapphire, Sri Lanka, the lotus that divides collectors. A gem the color of a lotus at sunrise, delicate pink melting into soft orange. Jewelers call it Padparadscha, from the Sinhalese word for lotus blossom. But here lies the problem. What exact mix of pink and orange counts as true Padparadscha? In a world where definitions hold millions of dollars in value, the answer is far from simple. Sri Lanka is the cradle of this gem. Along its riverbeds and alluvial gravels, miners occasionally uncover crystals with that elusive blend. Balanced perfectly between two hues, when cut and polished, the stone glows like a tropical dawn. Yet for every one that passes as true Padparadscha, dozens are dismissed as merely pink or orange sapphire. Dealers, laboratories, and collectors argue endlessly. Some demand a strong orange core with pink overtones. Others insist only the soft pastel blend deserves the name. The more they debate, the more the stone's mystique grows. For investors, this very ambiguity is an engine of scarcity. Because labs set strict and often differing definitions, certified Padparadscha stones become rare trophies. Auction records highlight the effect. In Asia, particularly Japan, significant untreated Padparadschas command extraordinary premiums, their lotus symbolism resonating deeply with culture and ceremony. The fewer stones that achieve consensus, the higher their prices rise. But the same debate that fuels value also fuels risk. Many stones are misrepresented. Heated pink sapphires pushed toward orange, or orange sapphires softened to resemble lotus tones. Without documentation from trusted labs like GIA, SSEF, or AGL, investors risk paying Padparadscha prices for mere fancy sapphires. Even with certificates, disputes persist. One lab may approve a stone that another rejects. Liquidity, therefore, depends as much on paperwork as on the gem itself. Looking ahead, 2026 will likely see further polarization. On one side, mainstream jewelry buyers may shy away from stones entangled in definition debates. On the other hand, elite collectors, especially in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Colombo, will chase larger, unheated Padparadschas with fierce conviction. Prices for those rare few are expected to continue climbing. For investors, this gem is both an opportunity and a gamble. Reward lies in precision, in knowing the difference between a dawn lotus and an imposter bloom. Would you invest in a gem whose very identity is decided not by nature alone, but by the arguments of men? Share your thoughts below. In a quiet display case, a Padparadscha rests, glowing softly in its lotus hues. Around it, experts argue. Too orange, too pink, Too strong, too faint. The voices rise, then fade, but the stone itself never answers. It does not explain, it does not defend. It simply lies still, radiating the color of a dawn that cannot be defined, its actual value suspended in silence. Padparadscha leaves us uncertain, its value suspended in argument. But Alexandrite gives no room for doubt. Its transformation is absolute. Emerald by day, ruby by night. Ranked 6th, Alexandrite, Russia and Brazil. Emerald by day, ruby by night. What if one gem could live 2 lives? By day, it gleams with the deep green of an emerald forest. By night, under lamplight, it burns crimson, as if a ruby had taken its place. This is the miracle of Alexandrite, a gemstone so rare and dramatic that the phrase, emerald by day, ruby by night, has defined its legend for nearly 2 centuries. The story begins in the 1830s, in Russia's Ural Mountains. Miners uncovered a chrysoberyl crystal with a shocking property. It shifted color depending on light. As fate would have it, the discovery coincided with the coming of age of the future Tsar Alexander II, and the gem was named in his honor. Its 2 colors, green and red, mirrored the uniforms of the Russian Imperial Guard, cementing its status as a stone of power, transformation, and loyalty. From the start, Alexandrite was more than a gem. It was a symbol. Geologically, this phenomenon is a razor-thin accident of chemistry. Trace amounts of chromium distort the crystal's absorption spectrum so precisely that natural light reveals green, while incandescent light reveals red. Few localities ever formed under conditions strict enough to create such gems. Russia's Ural deposits, long exhausted, were once the finest. Today, Brazil and Sri Lanka produce notable stones, with Brazil supplying larger, more vibrant crystals. Still, top-quality Alexandrite remains extraordinarily scarce, especially in sizes over 2 carats. For investors, Alexandrite is among the most reliable of the phenomenon stones. Its dual identity creates universal appeal. Collectors prize its optical science, while jewelry houses market its drama as wearable theater. Auction results show steady records, with Russian stones especially coveted for their heritage. The rarity of substantial color change, combined with a limited global supply, makes Alexandrite a resilient choice for long-term appreciation. Yet pitfalls abound. Many Alexandrites display only partial or muddy transitions, weakening their value. Worse still, synthetics and lab-grown stones mimic natural Alexandrite with uncanny precision, often requiring advanced spectroscopic analysis to confirm authenticity. Mid-tier stones can stagnate, with only the finest commanding premium growth. Liquidity depends on provenance and lab reports. Without them, even genuine stones risk mistrust in the market. Looking to 2026, the trajectory is potent but selective. Prices for fine Russian Alexandrites with vivid shifts are expected to rise steadily, supported by rarity and history. Brazilian material with clean cuts and strong transitions will continue to gain traction, particularly in Asia and the US. For investors, this is not a gem to buy casually. It demands discernment. But for those who secure the right piece, Alexandrite represents a balance of stability and spectacle few gems can rival. If you could hold both emerald and ruby in a single gem, would you invest in transformation or in tradition? Share your perspective below. Alexandrite bends with the light, changing face at every shift. Then comes a gem that does not bend at all. It blazes defiantly, neon and unyielding. Paraíba Tourmaline, ranked 5th. Paraíba Tourmaline, Brazil and Mozambique. The neon flame that changed the market. In 1989, a small mine in Paraíba State, Brazil, shocked the gem world. From its hills came crystals that glowed with a neon intensity unseen in any other gemstone. Electric blues and greens so bright they seemed lit from within. Dealers and jewelers at first thought it impossible. How could a tourmaline, usually admired for earthy pinks or greens, suddenly blaze like liquid neon? The answer was copper, an element so rare in tourmaline that its discovery rewrote gemology. Thus was born Paraíba Tourmaline, a gemstone that electrified the market and continues to fuel bidding wars in 2026. The geological miracle is closely tied to the copper content. In precise concentrations, copper and manganese distort the crystal structure to produce colors that seem to vibrate. Turquoise, vivid sea green, even flashes of violet. No other gem delivers such saturation. Early material from Brazil's Batalha mine became instant legends. Small, fractured crystals cut into gems under 2 carats, yet sold at prices once reserved for ruby or emerald. Their neon glow was enough to ignite global frenzy. By the 2000s, new deposits emerged in Nigeria and later Mozambique. While Brazilian stones remain the benchmark, Mozambique now dominates supply, producing larger crystals with intense color, but sometimes less saturated glow. This expansion stabilized the market, yet also sparked debate. Is Paraíba a geographic term tied only to Brazil, or a gemological one describing copper-bearing tourmaline wherever it is found? For investors, the distinction is crucial because auction premiums remain highest for certified Brazilian origin. Paraíba Tourmaline is one of the few modern gems that rewrote the investment hierarchy in real time. Its unique neon identity cannot be replicated in sapphire or emerald, and auction records confirm soaring demand. In 2024, a 7.5-carat Brazilian Paraíba sold for over $3 million, placing it firmly in the top tier of investment stones. Its cultural cachet in Asia and the Middle East, where neon gems resonate strongly, further solidifies its position. But no gem is without risk. Treatments, particularly heating to enhance color, are common. Without strict lab certification, investors risk overpaying for treated or misrepresented stones. The market is also susceptible to origin. Brazilian stones command multiples over Mozambique material, creating uneven liquidity. Finally, as a relatively young gem in the trade, Paraíba lacks the centuries-old prestige of ruby or diamond, leaving its long-term cultural foundation still in formation. As we move through 2026, Paraíba's trajectory remains bullish. Brazilian material is nearly depleted, making legacy stones increasingly valuable. Mozambique continues to provide supply, but demand at the high end still outpaces availability. For investors, the path is clear. Certified Brazilian stones remain the crown jewel, while fine Mozambique examples offer growth potential at lower entry points. Either way, the neon flame of Paraíba Tourmaline is not fading. It is spreading. If you could invest in a gem discovered only a generation ago, would you trust its meteoric rise or wait for history to prove its permanence? Share your thoughts below. From a gemstone that burns like neon fire, we move to one that has shaped empires for centuries, a green treasure traded by conquistadors, coveted by royals, and still standing as a pillar of investment today. At number 4, Colombian Emerald from Muzo and Chivor. Ranked 4th, Colombian Emerald, Muzo and Chivor, the green fire that built empires. Centuries ago, Spanish conquistadors marched through the jungles of Colombia in search of gold. What they found instead were stones of such vivid green that they eclipsed gold itself. These were the emeralds of Muzo and Chivor, gems so powerful in color and so enduring in legend that they reshaped global trade. To this day, Colombian emeralds remain the standard by which all others are judged, a gem that built empires and still commands boardrooms and auction halls. The green of Colombian emerald is unlike any other, deep yet glowing, vibrant yet soft. This comes from trace elements of chromium and vanadium embedded within beryl crystals, formed under the unique pressures of Colombia's ancient geology. The result is a hue often described as green fire, capable of capturing light and holding it in a velvety glow. Few gems carry such immediate recognition. When dealers say Colombian, they mean the best. Mining at Muzo and Chivor has always been treacherous. The veins are narrow, twisting through black shale, and extracting clean crystals often requires luck as much as labor. For centuries, miners worked by hand in the jungle heat, producing stones that fueled royal treasuries in Europe and Asia. Even today, despite modern machinery, production is erratic, sometimes yielding treasures, sometimes nothing at all. This unpredictability, combined with limited supply, ensures Colombian emeralds retain their aura of scarcity. Among gemstones, Colombian emerald is a blue-chip asset. It offers investors global liquidity, strong auction records, and centuries of cultural prestige. High jewelry houses, from Cartier to Van Cleef and Arpels, have immortalized Colombian emeralds and masterpieces, ensuring constant demand. For those seeking stability, few colored stones offer such a deep, liquid market. Yet emerald is also a lesson in fragility. Nearly all Colombian stones are treated with oil to reduce visible fractures, a practice accepted in the trade, but still a vulnerability. Over time, oil can dry, requiring retreatment. Untreated stones, especially above 5 carats with intense color, are exponentially rarer and command astronomical prices. Fakes and synthetics circulate widely, making provenance and lab reports non-negotiable. For investors, the risk is not in demand, but in quality assurance. For 2026, Colombian emeralds remain a cornerstone. Demand from Asia and the Middle East is increasing, driving prices for top materials steadily higher. Untreated emeralds with vivid green and high clarity are expected to outperform, while treated or commercial-grade stones may stagnate. For serious investors, the path is clear. Focus on pedigree, certification, and exceptional stones. The emerald market rewards the few, not the many. If gold built kingdoms, but emerald toppled them, which would you trust with your investment today? Share your thoughts below. In the jungles of Boyacá, abandoned shafts lie silent, their tunnels collapsed, their veins exhausted. Yet on the auction stage, emeralds from those very mines blaze under the spotlight, commanding fortunes centuries after their discovery. The mines may fall quiet, but their absence only magnifies the value of the stones that remain. The jungle green fades, leaving behind the hush of history. Out of that stillness rises another legend in blue, velvety, soft, and more myth than market. At number 3, Kashmir Sapphire of India. Ranked third, Kashmir Sapphire, India, the velvet blue of legend. Imagine a blue so soft it looks like velvet, yet so deep it seems endless. This is the legendary hue of the Kashmir Sapphire, a gemstone mined for only a few short decades in the late 19th and early 20th century, but one that still reigns as the pinnacle of blue sapphires today. Collectors describe its tone not just as color, but as texture, cornflower blue imbued with a velvety softness that no other source has consistently matched. The story begins high in the Himalayas, where a landslide in the 1880s exposed corundum-bearing rock in the remote Padar region of Kashmir. For a brief period, miners extracted sapphires of unparalleled beauty, large crystals with silky inclusions that diffused light into a soft, glowing blue. Within decades, however, the primary deposits were exhausted. By the 1930s, commercial mining had effectively ended. Since then, the world has lived off the relics of that short, brilliant window. For investors, Kashmir sapphires are the ultimate provenance gem. Supply is finite, the mines are silent, and every stone is a piece of history. Auction records are clear. A 17-carat Kashmir sapphire sold for $4.1 million at Sotheby's in 2020, setting a benchmark that continues to rise. No other sapphire origin, Burma, Sri Lanka, Madagascar, carries the same mythic weight. Owning a Kashmir is like owning a fragment of legend, one guaranteed to draw global demand. Yet rarity breeds imitation. Countless sapphires from other localities are misrepresented as Kashmiri, and even genuine stones require meticulous laboratory testing to confirm their origin. Treatments further complicate the market. Heated rocks, while still beautiful, cannot command the same premiums. As with emerald, liquidity is not the issue. Authenticity is. Without bulletproof provenance, an investor risks paying legend prices for ordinary material. In 2026, Kashmir sapphires remain in their own category. Less an investment gem, more a historical archive. Prices for untreated stones with strong certificates are expected to continue climbing, driven by scarcity and prestige. Unlike newer discoveries, Kashmir cannot be replenished. Its mines are silent forever. That silence ensures each certified gem acts as a document of history, a page torn from a book no longer written. If you could buy a fragment of legend, would you see it as a jewel or as an artifact? Share your thoughts below. The story of Kashmir Sapphire is not told in mines but in records. Yellowed field notes from colonial explorers, auction catalogs listing sky-high results, and certificates stamped by gemological labs. Each stone is an entry in that archive, its blue glow preserving not just beauty, but memory. Kashmir is no longer mined, it is documented. The velvet blue of Kashmir closes like the final page of a book. What follows is not softness, but the hardness of jade, revered in palaces and temples, its value bound to culture as much as to rarity. At number 2, Imperial Jadeite of Myanmar. Ranked second, Imperial Jadeite, Myanmar, the stone of emperors and investors. In 2014, Sotheby's Hong Kong auctioned the Hutton Mandavani necklace, a 27-bead graduated necklace of Imperial Jadeite once owned by the Cartier dynasty. It sold for $27.4 million, breaking records and confirming what Asia had long known. Imperial Jadeite is not just a gemstone, but a cultural treasure. For centuries, Jadeite has adorned emperors, queens, and collectors, standing as a symbol of virtue, wealth, and power. And today it remains one of the hottest contested investments in the colored stone world. Jadeite is a pyroxene mineral prized above all for its translucency and imperial green hue, an intense, vibrant color with a glowing, almost watery quality. Only Myanmar's northern Kachin state produces material of this caliber. For generations, miners have hacked boulders out of rivers and mountainsides, gambling on whether the gray-green rind would reveal a luminous heart of jadeite within. The supply is finite, the conditions harsh, and the risks immense. Yet from these hills come the beads, bangles, and cabochons that dominate the jade market. Imperial Jadeite has no rival in its home markets. In China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, it is considered the ultimate expression of wealth and prestige, often valued above diamonds or rubies. Its cultural cachet ensures not just beauty, but liquidity. An imperial jadeite necklace or cabochon can sell within days to buyers who see it not merely as jewelry, but as a heritage piece. For investors, this demand translates into unparalleled staying power. Yet jadeite is also among the riskiest gemstones for outsiders. Treatments, including bleaching, polymer filling, and dyeing, are widespread. Many stones masquerade as imperial quality, but fail under advanced testing. Political instability in Myanmar, including sanctions and export restrictions, further complicates the market, limiting supply chains into Western countries. Investors without strong local connections risk overpaying, misjudging quality, or holding stones difficult to resell outside Asia. For 2026, jadeite stands at an inversion point. While Western investors often dismiss jade as regional, its market power in Asia remains unmatched. Demand in Hong Kong and mainland China continues to escalate, and museum-grade pieces show steady appreciation. For those willing to navigate its complexities, Imperial Jadeite is less a gemstone than a currency of culture. Its value defined not by global consensus, but by centuries of belief. Would you invest in a stone whose value is not determined by geology, but by culture? Share your thoughts below. For most of the world, jade is an ornamental material carved into trinkets. In China, it is imperial, sacred, and supreme, worth more than diamond, more than ruby, more than gold. Here, the hierarchy inverts. The gem the West once overlooked becomes the East's ultimate prize. The empire of jade closes its chapter, leaving a silence heavy with tradition. Ahead lies the final stone. Not regional, not cultural, but universal. A gem whose mine is gone, yet whose prices climb relentlessly year after year. At number 1, Argyle Pink Diamond of Australia. In first place, Argyle Pink Diamonds, Australia, the final chapter of a mine that closed forever. In 2020, deep in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, the last truck of ore rolled out of the Argyle diamond mine. With it ended one of the most extraordinary chapters in modern gem history. For decades, Argyle had produced over 90% of the world's supply of pink diamonds, gems so vivid, so impossibly rare, that they redefined what investors thought colored diamonds could be. Today, with the mine closed and no new source discovered, Argyle pink diamonds stand not just as jewels, but as relics of a vanished miracle. The magic of Argyle pink lies in its origin. Unlike colorless diamonds, whose clarity and brilliance drive value, Argyle stones are prized for their intense pink color, graded from delicate blush to deep purplish crimson. Scientists believe this unique hue originates from distortions in the diamond's crystal lattice during formation, which bend light in ways other diamonds cannot. Each stone carries a hue that feels alive, some whispering with pale rose, others roaring with scarlet fire. For decades, these diamonds traveled from the remote mine through the annual Argyle Tender, an exclusive auction where only the rarest were presented to the world's top collectors. Each year, a handful of stones set new benchmarks, their names etched into auction lore. With the mine's closure, those tenders are over. What remains are the stones that have already been cut, sold, and stored in vaults around the globe. Argyle pinks are the ultimate finite asset. Supply is zero, demand is global. Auction houses in Geneva, Hong Kong, and New York consistently report record-breaking sales. Prices have risen steadily for 5 consecutive years, unaffected by economic downturns. For investors, Argyle pink diamonds are more than luxury. They are a store of value, liquid, and increasingly sought after as portable wealth. But exclusivity comes at a cost. Entry prices are incredibly high. Even half-carat stones can exceed $100,000. The market is also opaque. Pricing depends heavily on color grade, saturation, and provenance. Without Argyle certification, pink diamonds from other mines can masquerade, confusing inexperienced buyers. Liquidity is strong only for certified Argyle stones, and even then, patience is required to match with the right buyer. Looking to 2026, Argyle pink diamonds remain unrivaled. With supply frozen and awareness growing, prices are expected to continue their steady climb. As blue-chip gems like ruby and emerald face fluctuations, Argyle pinks stand as the clearest example of scarcity translating directly into value. For many investors, this is not merely a gem. It is the closest thing the gemstone market has to a guarantee. If the mine is silent forever, would you still chase the echoes it left behind? Share your thoughts below. The Argyle mine lies empty now. Its tunnels collapsed, its machinery rusting in the red dust. The roar of extraction has ceased, the auctions have ended, and the tender books are closed. Yet in vaults and jewel cases around the world, pink diamonds still glow softly. The mine will never speak again, but its silence makes every surviving stone louder, more precious, more final. 15 gemstones, 15 stories of rarity, risk, and reward. From color-change garnets that hide in Madagascar's shadows to the velvety blues of Kashmir sapphires, from neon tourmalines discovered only a generation ago to diamonds whose mines are silent forever. Each stone on this list carries more than beauty. It carries consequences. What we've seen tonight is a map of 2026, a market shaped not only by geology, but by culture, history, and timing. Some gems are racing against depletion, others against misunderstanding, and a few, like Argyle pink diamonds, have already crossed the line into legend. For investors, the message is clear. In gemstones, hesitation can be as costly as a wrong choice. But the countdown doesn't end here. The market evolves, tastes shift, and discoveries can rewrite the hierarchy at any moment. Which of these stones will dominate not just in 2026, but in 2030? Which will fade quietly into collections never to be seen again? Thank you for joining us on this journey with tops in the gemstone kingdom. If you found these insights as captivating as the stones themselves, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. After all, the question remains, if you could choose just one gem to carry into the future, would you trust history or gamble on discovery?